This is Pulse Check. And I'm Mitch Brown with the Kaleidoscope Group. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 ways to elevate your employee resource group and your business resource groups. You ready? Let's get at it. All right, I got 3 ways for you here today. All right, number 1, I want you to make it inclusive. Number 2, I want you to make it fun, but meaningful. And then number 3, I want you to make it valuable. All right, so let's dig into what each one of those avenues would entail. Let's first start with making it inclusive. Anytime you have an employee resource group, a business resource group, you might operate in a silo, right? You might think about, what am I doing for the particular segment of the population that this employee resource group, a business resource group serves? And that's going to be an important part of what your charter, right? But your success, the elevation of that group, it really depends on how well you can pull others in. How do you make it inclusive, right? It should be something that's just not about the constituency that you're serving, but it should also be about the other stakeholders in the organization. What are some examples of this? Well, you know what? You could have an event, right? Or like a potluck, and you invite everybody to be a part of that experience, right? And that's something that's cool. That's nice. Many organizations do that, but I would say that's kind of superficial, right? That's superficial in a way. It's fun, but it's not necessarily into the level that I would say, hey, let's benefit from getting people involved and inclusive. What's a better example? Well, a lot of times, these groups may be convening to figure out, a better way to go about doing something, to give the organization some proper insight. And one of the things that happens in an ERG or BRG, when you have those common insights, right? You kind of talking and dealing with people who might see the world or see things in the same similar perspective that you do. What do you really get out of that? You get validation, right? I mean, if you really want to grow, you need different input. You need different insight. And if you have total involvement, you can bring in stakeholders who may not have that issue at hand, but they may be a part of the broader ecosystem, the broader environment that's really important to executing on the idea that you come up with. So the input they give you, right, can take your idea and make it grow, versus the input that you might get from common insight is just, hey, that's a great idea, and we don't think about it in a critical way. So that's number 1, make it inclusive. Where are we going next? Well, we're going to make it fun, but we're going to make it meaningful. So when we think about this, listen, I think one of the unique things about an ERG and BRG is that it's not a typical business group within the context of historically how we think of organizations. So not being typical, I think you think that as some people say, hey, that is a weakness. How do we, perform? Where's our position in the organization? But you have some uniqueness because you can get creative. You can get creative in the ways that you operate. And this is very, very important. If you ask me, I'm going to go about doing this in a way that sends a message of engagement, right? What's going to elevate that BRG and that ERG for others? Well, people are going to look at it and say, hey, they do really, really fun things, right? So I've had an example I share with people that if I'm a part of the African-American Leadership Network, let's just say that was part of the ERG that I was a part of. And one of the things that's important in my charter in my group is to, really bring awareness to African-American history, and maybe even more specifically related to the industry that my company operates in. So what we might do that might be fun, but still meaningful? Well, we might put on a talent show. Because you imagine that, right? Black History Month, Juneteenth, right? We're doing a talent show. People are showcasing their talents in terms of their voice, their instruments. But as doing that as a means to entertain people, we could couple that with an opportunity to educate people in terms of historically what have been some of the things that have contributions made, right, by African Americans that are essential maybe to our work and place of business. So here we are having fun, but yet we're making it meaningful. Why is that important? Well, if I'm a part of that organization if I'm a part of that organization more broadly, I might change my perception, right, in terms of how I see ERGs and BRGs. That, this goes to the heart of receptivity, how I receive them as somebody who is deserving, right, of my attention and my interest. If I'm a part of the actual BRG itself, Well, it makes it, worthwhile for me. It makes it fun. You'll get higher levels of engagement, I promise you, in terms of, how people are able to be a part of that. That in turn is going to elevate, I think, the BRGs and ERGs. So we're following down this road together, wherever we've been so far. First stop was about making it inclusive. Our second stop was about making it fun, but yet meaningful. Now in this last place, I want you to make it valuable. Think about that for a second, right? Make it valuable. It's two ways you can look at that. One, ERGs and BRGs need to be a value add. But also here's another layer you might not think about. ERGs and BRGs need to be value instilled. So not always is it about what the BRG, ERG can do for the organization. That's one piece of the puzzle. But sometimes you got to ask yourself, what is the organization? What can the organization do for the BRG and ERG? I'll say it again. It's not always about what the BRG and ERG can do for others or the organization, but it's about what can the organization do and instill in that BRG. So let's break it down. Let's start first with the value add. You know what distinguishes a employee resource group, business resource group from a social club? You guessed it, right? It's the business imperative. It's the business interest that you're really going and attacking, right? So a lot of times, if you're in that being fun place and you don't get to the business imperative, you'll be looked at as what? A social club, right? Which is, that's cool. But what we want to do in this context here is we want to elevate BRGs and ERGs in people's minds. So to do that, we got to have a business imperative. What is our example? So maybe you're in a consumer products good company, right? And again, you're part of a cultural or ethnic diverse ERG or business resource group. One of the things that can be interesting is like, how can I use my group as a liaison to help drive market insights, right? How do you help us sell more lotion? How do you help us sell more, grooming products? Whatever it might be, you can use this group as a liaison to kind of understand some of the things about the marketplace that you don't know. Many times consumer product goods will conduct focus groups. This group can be a liaison to acquire participants, right? To give the participants a sense of genuineness and authenticity, which sometimes can be an issue with organizations who are trying to serve diverse markets and the public sphere. So when you do those kind of things and you're able to position yourself in a way that adds value to the organization through those kind of insights, that's what we're getting after. That's going to have the ERGs and BRGs go straight up the ladder in terms of importance of how people see them. Now, speaking of importance in terms of how people see ERGs and BRGs, again, I mentioned it's not all about what they do for the organization. It is a duality, if you will, right? A two-way street. And here's where most organizations miss the ball, so to speak. You have to do some work in elevating those ERGs and BRGs for your employee population. Think about it. Anything else is important in the business, you do it for that, don't you? Right? If we have some, event that is looked at as, this is very important. Maybe that's a community engagement fundraiser. Maybe it's an awards banquet. But people in the organization, right, they see this outside of the mainframe of what they do on a day-to-day basis. But the respect, the deference, the accolades that they have paid to something like this is elevated based upon, again, how leadership, how senior management signals around the importance of what this is. That same signal has to be shared with ERGs and BRGs, okay? And that's going to allow you, again, to not only be a value add, but as I say, a value instill. It's going to help elevate the way people see ERGs and BRGs within the organization. So as a recap, what are those three things? You got them. You tell me. You got it, right? Make it inclusive. Make it fun but meaningful. And make it valuable. All right? So again, this is a pulse check real quick here. Thank you for stopping in with me. Mitch Brown with the Kaleidoscope Group. I'll see you next time.